Hello there, my beautiful fellow space blobs and sparkly blobs and deep divers into spirit, whatever form you might be taking in this moment as we meet here again. I love this space so much, and I'm going to be completely honest. When I woke up today, I felt scattered to the four winds. I felt so distracted by all the things that need to be solved, all the ways I need to get things done and become who I think I need to become and solve the mystery of where I'm going to be next and what it's going to look like and how my dog is going to feel. I had so much going on in my mind before I sat down to explore this Scorpio new moon with you all. And then I sat down to explore this Scorpio new moon and I felt so much better. I felt reconnected to something that I think is an underlying current in Scorpio season in general, anytime we're working with Scorpio, and specifically this new moon, because it's happening right in that beautiful time of year, October 31st into November 1st. We're working with this energy, which is Samhain, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, All Souls Day, the next day. There's so many traditions around the world that recognize this midway point between the equinox in September and the solstice in December, where the light is halfway between those two, where something shifts, the energy changes, our modality changes. No matter which hemisphere you're in and which season you're moving into, the modality is changing, and there is this deep, wild soulfulness to it. And this new moon falls at a time when we might be getting a lot of really deep wisdom from our ancestors, from beyond the veil, from our deep psychic realm, from our subconscious, from places that don't fit into the problem solving analytical mind. And that's exactly, I think, why I felt better as soon as I sat down here to sit with this new moon. There's so much going on in the world right now, and there's so many unsolvable questions that don't have answers in a life, and then also living in this complex world. And it can feel very disempowering. And diving into this deeper space, this energetic, this intuitive realm, where it's not about getting nice concrete answers, but it is about coming back into like a deeper knowing and a deeper truth and allowing that to lead us, is such a relief. It's very recharging. And I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Scorpio is one of the most healing energies to work with once we kind of get ourselves a little bit more adjusted to it and connected to it and just take the time to go to these places. And I am feeling really held by the energy of this new moon. We're going to get into all the details here. Also, if you're looking for a practice that feels really comforting for this new moon, for the Scorpio season, I'm going to be doing a little activation, a little visualization over on my Patreon, where we're going to just allow messages to move through in a very safe way and a relaxed way and work with where we are in this moment. So I'd love to see you over there for that and so much more. But let's get into the details. What's going on with this beautiful Scorpio new moon on November 1st? The first theme I want to dig into here is, of course, the sun and the moon coming together at 9 degrees of Scorpio, amplifying our relationship to this very, very powerful archetype. And I believe one of the archetypes that we can do some of the most interesting creative things with, and that can lead us to the truest lives that we want to be living. It often gives us some of the deepest truth, clarity, and confidence when we're willing to dive beneath those waves a little bit. Because, of course, when we first look at Scorpio as an archetype, a lot of times the things that come to mind are kind of like horror movies and spooky things and doing the shadow work and death and transformation. And, of course, those are all expressions of this archetype that is very curious about what happens when we transform, when we release, when we go to the shadowy places. But because it's so invested in doing that work, it's also where all the replenishment and renewal comes from. It's where we discover that those shadowy places are full of rainbows and light. It's where we discover that that haunted house in our mind has a doorway through which we recognize something very important about ourselves, and it releases us. It's also, in transformation and releasing one identity, that we discover we are allowed to begin again. So Scorpio is, I will say it time and again, is one of the most loving and caring and healing archetypes that we can work with. But culturally, because it's been pushed to the background, at least in a lot of US and even Western European culture, I would say, it's kind of been disabled in some ways to really express itself fully. And I know many people in this space connect deeply with Scorpio and do this work, and this is a part of just the modality through which we live our lives. So I'm not saying anything new to a lot of us in this space, I'm pretty sure. But it's always nice to remember, like, there is this deep confidence and knowing that comes out whenever we take a little bit of time to connect into that Scorpio energy. And that's really what I'm getting at here with our first theme with this new moon in Scorpio. It is going to be amplifying this confident, clear, truthful voice that will be giving us messages about the creations that have value, that are wanting to be birthed in our lives. It's giving us the confidence in knowing that it's okay to make shifts or changes, the confidence and clarity in knowing to just acknowledge something that might be true in our lives right now, and not from a place of judging any of it, but just simply in knowing it and seeing it and hearing it. And of course, like I already mentioned, this new moon's happening right in that doorway as we shift through into a new sense of light. Because whether you're in the northern or the southern hemisphere, this midpoint between the eclipse or the equinox and the solstice is a point at which we are working with very different light and energy systems. And so we're also having a moment where we're really assessing what we want to be doing with our energy and our time. This new moon is, of course, going to be giving us all of those beautiful guidance messages from our ancestors, from that deep knowing space, from the subconscious. We're going to be doing all of that. It's going to be, I'm so excited. I think it's going to be amazing. But this new moon is also so connected to these much bigger energy patterns. And that's what I want to get into in the next couple of themes. So the first theme I want to just pick up here very briefly is there's a pretty powerful opposition going on at the same time as this new moon, which is Mars at 29 degrees of Cancer opposing Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. The Cancer-Capricorn axis is all about where we find our security, where we find our sense of belonging and nurturance and inner parenting. So it's a quite impactful axis to be highlighting here in this opposition. And I've mentioned Mars in Cancer several times in recent chats with you all. So if you've been here for the last few weeks, you've probably been noticing we've been talking a lot about Mars in Cancer. And I know some of you are feeling very challenged by that, or unmotivated, or a little bit how to work with this. But here's the thing with Mars in Cancer that I will say time and time again. It's really challenging us to think about what we think we have to do, where we think we have to use our life force to keep up appearances, to keep things going. And it's really highlighting where that just does not feel true. Like where you can tell we are just forcing our way through. And this is a lifelong thing that we have to reassess, because we will continue to change and our needs will continue to change. We do not stay the same in a lifetime, even though we have a core essence that comes with us through it all. And we always are going to have to do this exploration. However, sometimes it gets highlighted just a little bit more, and there's a reevaluation that really has us looking at what we are going to pursue, what we're going to use that Martian life force energy to pursue in our lives, and why it matters, and if it's actually connecting. So it's a real point of assessment and knowing, and that opposition with Pluto is saying, what motivates you? What brings you to life? What brings you a sense of wonder and awe is going through a transformation right now. And that's going to continue on for a little while, because Mars and Pluto are going to be dancing together, because Mars is going to be having a retrograde coming up here very, very soon. we are going to be having more of this oppositional conversation going on with Mars and Pluto. But there is the beginning here of this very powerful conversation with these two and a deep reassessment. And like I said, I just think it's going to be that our preferences, what brings us to life, are changing. And a lot of us are going to feel resistance to that because it feels like we're breaking a rule, or we're letting people down, or we're unsafe in doing that, and we are going to lose everything. And it's nice to know that you are, in fact, allowed to change your preferences, to change your skill sets, to start over, to completely scrap something that maybe was your motivation for 10 years or something and is no longer a part of that. This is an opposition that's really acknowledging the end of some projects and identities. Not all, but the ones that have shifted enough or are really starting to grate are highlighted here. And this is part of that intuitive wisdom that I think our ancestors are going to be trying to help us with. Our internal guidance systems and our subconscious are all going to be giving us lots of imagery and reminders about that during this new moon, which I'm honestly really excited to see and explore as we move through. Okay, the final theme. It's another theme that I've been talking a lot about in the recent weeks, which is, of course, this Pluto finishing its residency in Capricorn. It will finish that residency on November 19th, so just under 3 weeks after this new moon. But this is the final new moon that we are having with Pluto and Capricorn in this lifetime. And that just gave me some goosebumps and chills to say, because it's kind of surreal to think about that and to really let that land. And part of what I think this new moon is helping us do, and why Scorpio is so helpful in helping us wrap this up and understand, is that this new moon is a time to really acknowledge the closing and ending of karmic cycles. Lessons have been learned. Ideas and expectations have been moved through. We have changed as people. And some of the curriculum we might have been working on in recent years has perhaps completed and concluded. And I think part of the work of this new moon and the deep exploration and the looking for these new wells of inspiration is in recognizing that we have learned lessons, that we have moved through different iterations, and some of that work really is complete. Of course, there'll be the next lesson, the next iteration, the next exploring. Those are all things that are going to start showing up here, and that's part of this new moon as well. But this is also a beautiful time to acknowledge what you're allowed to acknowledge has completed and done. And I think an important element to all of these themes that we have been exploring here so far is this. So often we feel like we're not allowed to begin again. Maybe we feel like we've used up all of our luck, all of our beginnings, all of our new pathways. Maybe it feels like we're getting away with something, or we're guilty for not working hard enough on that lesson, or not accomplishing as much as we should have in the curriculum that we gave ourselves over the last 5 years. But this new moon, while it is about acknowledging those endings and feeling that release and feeling safe to release those things and feeling safe to acknowledge what you've learned and what you've moved through and just saying, whoa, that was a really intense curriculum and I have changed as a person. It's also the freedom to feel the new beginnings. And that's the note I want to end on here before we get into our tarot, because our intuitive reading, because new moons are about seed planting. At the core, we strip it back to its basics. Let's come back to what a new moon is. It's about setting intentions for a new lunar cycle, connecting with that visioning, connecting with what we want to see sprout to life. And I think all of these things, the opposition with Mars and Pluto, and asking, like, Do I have to keep doing this thing? The end of Pluto and Capricorn coming up here, the amplification of Scorpio's message giving, really all of it is saying that your psyche, your subconscious, the world beyond the veil, the energetic world are going to be coalescing during this new moon and trying to get our attention and really showing us archetypes, images, feelings, and knowings about what is trying to call us forward next. And often we have to do a little bit of making space. It's kind of like clearing a shelf in a closet, so we can put our new art supplies in there, so that we can put our new creations in there. That's kind of the exploration that's going on here. I don't know. I just think this is going to be such an illuminating and tingly, exciting new moon, where a lot of us are just going to be getting some of the clearest messages we've gotten in a long time. Also, some quite mystical messages that might take a little bit of time to fully land and show themselves in full fruition. As always with moon work, we'll often get information that doesn't give us a nice 1, 2, 3 step kind of situation. I am shuffling my deck here, and we're just going to do a very brief little check-in with our intuitive tarot. When I'm doing tarot, it's not about predictive reading. It's about connecting to archetype, connecting to soul, and just seeing what's here in this moment, in this conversation. Ace of Cups. I love that. I really feel Scorpio has this duality to it because of its transformational energy, which is that it is endings, it is release, it is shadow work, and it's emotional renewal. It's the possibility, it's the honesty of knowing ourselves. And the sun. So many goosebumps right now. These are such hopeful energies. What these make me think about is what brings us to life. What brings us to life. Of course, the Ace of Cups is about a cup that is overflowing. Not giving from this empty place, this barren place where we just feel like we have to constantly be giving to others because they're expecting us to do it all. It's from giving from this well of what really motivates us, what really brings us to life, and how much that gives back to our communities, to the projects and places and lifetimes that are around us. It matters. It matters. What brings us to life matters. Truly. And honestly, the Sun card has a very similar message. These two are in cahoots. They agree on a lot of things. They both understand the beauty and resonance of joy, of things that feel like absolute joy. And they're often simple. They're often sitting with the sun on your face. They're often having that deep conversation with a dear friend. They're often having a sip of tea. They're often, offering help to somebody you care about or you see needs help, And that these places matter. They are some of the best guides that we can work with. And the other thing that comes to mind when I see this, and I'm sure many of you are having intuitive ideas come when you see these two cards show up in our chat today. It makes me think about what I said at the beginning of this chat about Scorpio, that on the surface it seems like it's all about shadow work and darkness, but once we do the work with Scorpio, it's about opening this door into a room full of rainbows. It's about rediscovering a powerful life force that has felt like it had to be stifled so that we could play the roles we thought we had to play. And we find, once we walk into the world of Scorpio, that these kinds of energies are present and waiting to express. And I think that's exactly what this new moon's kind of going to feel like. It's like initially it might feel like we're going to these deep, heavy places. And if we're sitting with them, those deep, heavy places are going to suddenly show us and illuminate things that bring us to life. Reconnect us with the eternal nature of life, the life force itself, the great connected world, and the life force that our ancestors are still giving to us in this time. It's a really emotively honest, beautiful, archetypally rich new moon. Like, truly, if you like to journal or sketch or do art or free write or record voice memos to yourself, this is the kind of moon where if you just let the abstract quality of those things come through and just do a little practice where you just let whatever imagery is moving through, really interesting things could surface. So I highly recommend that. And of course, I'm going to be doing a visualization, very calming to the nervous system, where we're going to allow guidance to show us what's ending and what's beginning, and feel that confidence, feel that clarity, feel that resonance with archetypes in our subconscious, and receive those messages. So if you're looking for some support, I'd love to support you for this new moon and for the rest of the Scorpio season and beyond. We're also working with our minor arcana journey, and we're exploring the wild rhythms of life that each of those cards shows us, as well as deepening our tarot practices and feeling really safe in that. So I'd love to see you in that space. It's a really, really special place. If you want to be in Magic Makers, we also meet every month and we explore a different aspect of our charts and ourselves and get to know what our innate powers are when it comes to that. So I'd love to see you there. I love it when you are here. We are coming back to have so many powerful conversations in the coming weeks as we head toward Sagittarius season, as we head toward Pluto in Capricorn. Oh my goodness, or Pluto in Aquarius. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that. Pluto in Aquarius. So much coming up. So I hope to see you back here very, very soon. I'm sending you all my love. Enjoy this beautiful Scorpio new moon and its power and its magic. And we'll talk again very, very soon.